The crystal chandeliers of the Whitmore Estate ballroom cast dancing shadows across marble floors that gleamed like still water. Elena Martinez moved between the clusters of Manhattan's elite with practiced invisibility, her white serving apron crisp despite the humidity of the summer evening. At 28, she had perfected the art of being present yet unseen, essential yet forgettable. More champagne here. A woman dripping in diamonds snapped her fingers without looking at Elena's face. Of course, ma'am. Elena's voice was soft, her accent barely detectable after years of careful practice. She refilled the glass with steady hands, though her mind was elsewhere, with her 3-year-old daughter Sophia, hopefully asleep now in their studio apartment in Queens, watched over by their elderly neighbor Mrs. Chen. The evening's charity gala was in full swing. 200 of New York's wealthiest had gathered to celebrate the 5th anniversary of Whitmore Technologies, the tech empire built by 33-year-old Alexander Whitmore. He stood at the center of the room like a young king holding court, his tailored Tom Ford suit emphasizing broad shoulders and an athletic build that seemed at odds with his reputation as a computer genius. Dark hair, sharp jawline, eyes the color of steel, he was everything the magazine said he was. Brilliant, ruthless, untouchable. Elena had worked at the estate for 8 months now, one of a dozen housekeepers who maintained the 40-room mansion. She'd seen Mr. Whitmore perhaps 3 times, always at a distance. He existed in a different universe, one where a single watch cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. The shrimp puffs are cold. Another guest's complaint cut through the string quartet's melody. What kind of operation is this? Elena hurried toward the kitchen, her sensible shoes silent on the marble. She pushed through the swinging doors into controlled chaos, caterers rushing, ovens humming, the head chef barking orders like a general at war. Elena! Maria, another housekeeper, grabbed her arm. Have you seen Sophia's stuffed rabbit? The little one she always carries? Elena's heart clenched. She's not here. Mrs. Chun is watching her tonight. No, Mija. Maria's face was troubled. Mrs. Chun brought her about an hour ago. Said she had a family emergency and couldn't watch her after all. Mrs. Pemberton put Sophia in the staff room, but you know how children are. The world tilted. Sophia is here? During the gala? Panic clawed at Elena's throat. Mrs. Pemberton, the head housekeeper, was strict about one thing above all. The staff's personal lives never, ever intersected with the Whitmore events. Elena ran. Down the service corridor, past the wine cellar, to the small staff room where workers took breaks. The room was empty. The child-sized indentation on the sofa cushion and the abandoned coloring book confirmed Sophia had been there, but she was gone. Sophia? Elena's whisper was urgent. Baby, where are you? She retraced her steps, her mind conjuring every possible disaster. Sophia was curious, fearless in the way only 3-year-olds could be. And this mansion was enormous, full of priceless objects and dangerous staircases. Elena's search grew frantic. The laundry room, empty. The butler's pantry, nothing. Her breath came faster. She should tell someone, should ask for help, but admitting her daughter was loose in the mansion during the most important event of the year would mean instant termination. They needed this job. The health insurance. The steady paycheck that kept them fed and housed. The sound of applause drew her attention. Through a side door, she glimpsed the ballroom where Mr. Whitmore was approaching a microphone on the small stage. The crowd hushed, 200 expectant faces turned toward their host. And there, weaving between designer gowns and Italian leather shoes, was a tiny figure in a yellow sundress. Sophia. Elena's heart stopped. Her daughter was heading straight for the stage, her favorite stuffed rabbit, the one she must have brought with her, clutched in one small hand. Elena burst through the service door, forgetting protocol, forgetting everything except reaching her child. Sophia. The name escaped as a harsh whisper. Several heads turned. A woman gasped. Elena's face burned as she rushed forward, hyper-aware of every stare, every raised eyebrow. She was breaking the cardinal rule, making herself visible, disrupting the careful illusion that people like Mr. Whitmore existed without the messy infrastructure of people like her. Ladies and gentlemen, Alexander Whitmore's voice resonated through the sound system, smooth and confident. Thank you for joining us tonight. Sophia had reached the stage steps. Elena lunged forward, but a security guard materialized, his hand on her arm. Ma'am, you can't. That's my daughter. Elena's voice cracked. On stage, Alexander paused mid-sentence. His steel-gray eyes found Sophia, now climbing the steps with determination. The room held its collective breath. Elena jerked free from the guard and reached the stage just as Sophia toddled up to the billionaire. Mr. Whitmore, I'm so sorry. She grabbed for her daughter, but Sophia darted behind the podium. Mommy, look. The fancy man dropped this. Sophia's voice carried through the microphone system, clear as a bell. The crowd tittered. Someone laughed. Elena wanted the marble floor to open and swallow her whole. This was it, the end of everything. She'd be fired, blacklisted, unable to find work anywhere in Manhattan. How would she pay for Sophia's asthma medication? How would they eat? Elena Martinez. Mrs. Pemberton's voice cut through the murmurs like a blade. The head housekeeper stood at the edge of the stage, her face carved from granite. Step down immediately. Please, Mrs. Pemberton, I can explain. Now. Alexander Whitmore stood frozen, his expression unreadable. Sophia emerged from behind the podium, holding something small in her chubby fist. Mommy. He dropped his special thing. Elena scooped up her daughter, shame burning through her chest. I'm so sorry, Mr. Whitmore. So incredibly sorry. She turned to flee, but Sophia squirmed in her arms. Wait, Mommy. Give it back. Sophia, please. Everyone. Alexander's voice stopped her mid-step. He'd taken the microphone again, his face still that careful blank. Give us a moment. The ballroom buzzed with speculation. Elena stood paralyzed, holding her wiggling daughter, waiting for the axe to fall. Mrs. Pemberton mounted the stage, her heels clicking like a countdown. Mr. Whitmore, I apologize profusely. This employee will be terminated immediately and removed from the premises. There is no excuse for such unprofessional. What did I drop? Alexander interrupted, his eyes on Sophia. The little girl beamed, delighted to have his attention. She opened her small fist, and Elena's world crumbled into pieces. The ballroom's whispers crescendoed into silence as every eye focused on the small object in Sophia's palm. Elena felt the weight of 200 stares, each one a stone added to the crushing pressure in her chest. Her daughter, oblivious to the catastrophe unfolding, held up her hand toward Alexander Whitmore with the proud smile of a child who'd done something helpful. See? You dropped it by the plant, Sophia announced matter-of-factly. My mommy says we always return things that aren't ours. In the little girl's hand lay a compass, small, brass, worn smooth by years of handling. Nothing remarkable at first glance, certainly nothing that should belong to a billionaire who owned everything money could buy. But Elena watched the color drain from Alexander Whitmore's face as if he'd seen a ghost. The billionaire's carefully maintained composure shattered. He stared at the compass, his jaw working but no sound emerging. For a suspended moment, the most powerful man in the room looked utterly lost. Where? His voice came out hoarse. He cleared his throat, tried again. Where did you find this? By the big plant with the white flowers. Sophia pointed toward an enormous orchid arrangement near the entrance. I was looking for the bathroom because I'm a big girl now, and I go by myself, except Mommy doesn't know this house yet, and I saw the shiny thing on the floor. Elena's arms tightened around her daughter. Mr. Whitmore, I'm so sorry. Please, we'll leave immediately. I take full responsibility. Be quiet. The words were sharp, but his attention never left the compass. With trembling fingers, he took it from Sophia's hand. He turned it over, and Elena saw his thumb trace something engraved on the back. His breath caught. Mrs. Pemberton stepped forward, her face mottled with anger. "Mr. Whitmore, I assure you this employee will face consequences. Bringing her child to a gala, allowing her to run wild through the mansion, interrupt your speech. It's absolutely inexcusable. Elena, you're fired. Security will escort you."
No.
The single word cracked like a whip. Everyone froze. Alexander Whitmore looked up from the compass, and Elena saw something she couldn't name swimming in those steel-gray eyes. Pain? Wonder? Disbelief? "She's not fired," he said quietly. The ballroom erupted in murmurs. Mrs. Pemberton's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Sir, with all due respect, the protocol violations alone." "I said no." Alexander's voice gained strength. He looked at Elena fully for the first time, really looked at her, and she fought the urge to hide her daughter's face against her shoulder.
Please.
"Both of you, come with me." He descended the stage steps, the compass clutched in his fist like a lifeline. The crowd parted automatically, their expressions ranging from confused to scandalized. Elena heard whispered speculation. "Who is she? Is that his child? What's happening?" But Alexander ignored them all. He led them out of the ballroom, down a corridor Elena had never been permitted to enter. Everything here screamed wealth, original artwork on silk-papered walls, antique furniture that probably cost more than cars. Sophia stared wide-eyed at a marble statue, momentarily quiet. Alexander opened a door to what appeared to be a private study. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked manicured gardens lit by moonlight. Books lined one wall, a massive desk dominated the center, and a leather sofa faced a fireplace cold in the summer heat. "Close the door," he said. Elena obeyed, her heart hammering. Was this where he fired people privately? Would he call the police? Her mind raced through disasters, each worse than the last. Alexander moved to the windows, his back to them. His shoulders rose and fell with deep breaths. "How old are you?" His voice was barely audible. Elena blinked. "I, 28, sir." "And your daughter?" "She just turned 3. Elena shifted Sophia's weight. Her daughter was finally subdued by the strangeness of the situation, thumb in her mouth, eyes heavy with approaching sleep. Alexander laughed, a broken, painful sound.
3.
"Of course she is." He turned around, and Elena was startled to see moisture tracking down his cheeks. The billionaire was crying. "Mr. Whitmore, are you? This compass belonged to my father." He opened his hand, staring at the object like it held the secrets of the universe. "Thomas Whitmore. He died 25 years ago. I was 8 years old." Elena's racing thoughts stumbled. "I don't understand." He was a carpenter. Not rich, not famous, just a good man who worked with his hands and loved his family. Alexander's voice roughened. "He gave me this compass when I was 5. Said that no matter where life took me, no matter how lost I got, I could always find my way home. It was the last thing he gave me before the accident." The raw grief in his words made Elena's own eyes sting with sympathy. She knew loss, knew the shape of it, the weight. 3 weeks after he died, it vanished. "My mother said I must have lost it, but I knew I hadn't. I kept it in a special box by my bed. I tore the house apart looking for it." He wiped his face roughly. 25 years. 25 years I've looked for this compass. I even hired private investigators to try to track it down. I thought maybe it had been sold, stolen, that I'd never see it again. But how did it get here? Elena asked softly. "In your house." "That's exactly what I want to know." Alexander's gaze sharpened, focusing on her with uncomfortable intensity. "Because I didn't put it there. Haven't seen it in a quarter century. So how does it turn up tonight in my own home during a gala found by?" He gestured at Sophia, who was now fully asleep against Elena's shoulder. The pieces clicked together in Elena's mind with sickening clarity. You think I took it? That I somehow stole from you? And what? Planted it tonight? Sir, I've only worked here 8 months, and I've never even been in the family wing. I've never touched your personal belongings, never. I don't think you took it. Alexander's interruption was gentle. Look at it. He held the compass toward her. Hesitantly, Elena shifted Sophia to one arm and took the object. It was heavier than she expected, warm from his grip. She turned it over and saw the engraving. To my Alex. Find your way home. Love, Dad. It's beautiful, she whispered. Your father must have loved you very much. He did. Alexander's voice cracked again. Can you read the inscription on the other side? Elena flipped the compass. Different handwriting, shakier, less deep. For Thomas Jr., may you always know your worth. Love, Pop. My grandfather, Alexander explained. It was his father's before his, apparently passed down through 3 generations. And now. He took a shuddering breath. Now your daughter, a 3-year-old who couldn't possibly know what this means, finds it exactly where it needs to be. Do you believe in God, Miss Martinez? Elena, please. She handed the compass back carefully. And yes, I do. I didn't. Not for a long time. Alexander turned the compass over and over in his hands. But tonight, I'm not so sure. Because finding this now, when I've been lost for so long. He laughed, another broken sound. Maybe your daughter is an angel. Sophia chose that moment to snore softly against Elena's shoulder, and despite everything, the fear, the confusion, the surreal nature of standing in a billionaire's study while he cried over a compass, Elena smiled. She's definitely not an angel. She's a 3-year-old with opinions and approximately 0 fear. To her surprise, Alexander smiled too. She climbed onto my stage without hesitation. That takes courage. Or foolishness, Elena said. Mr. Whitmore, I really am sorry about the disruption. Mrs. Chun was supposed to watch her, but there was an emergency and… Stop apologizing. He waved a hand. You haven't done anything wrong. Your daughter found something precious that I thought was lost forever. If anything, I owe her a debt I can never repay. Elena felt like she'd fallen into an alternate reality. You're not firing me? Firing you? He looked genuinely confused. Why would I fire you? Because my child interrupted your gala? Because I broke protocol? Because Mrs. Pemberton works for me, not the other way around. Authority crept back into his voice. And as far as I'm concerned, your daughter is the only person who did anything right tonight. Everyone else, including me, was just going through motions. Smiling at people I don't like, pretending money and power matter more than. He gestured helplessly at the compass. Then connection. Elena finished softly. Then memory. Then love. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Understanding, recognition. 2 people from completely different worlds who somehow, in this strange moment, spoke the same language. A sharp knock interrupted them. Mr. Whitmore? Mrs. Pemberton's voice was tight with barely contained fury. Your guests are waiting. Shall I have security remove the intruder? Alexander's expression hardened. He strode to the door and yanked it open. Ms. Martinez is my guest. If anyone calls her an intruder again, they're the one who'll be removed. Is that clear? Mrs. Pemberton's face went through several colors. Sir, this is highly irregular. I don't care. Return to the gala. Tell them I'll be back momentarily. And send someone to prepare the Rose guest suite. The Rose suite. The head housekeeper looked like she might faint, but that's for family and close friends. Exactly. Now go. When the door closed again, Elena found her voice. Mr. Whitmore, you don't need to. Alexander. He returned to the windows, his profile sharp in the moonlight. If your daughter can wander onto my stage, you can call me Alexander. Sophia stirred against Elena's shoulder, mumbling something about rabbits and cookies. Elena's arms ached from holding her daughter's sleeping weight, but she didn't dare put her down. The rose guest suite, wherever that was, might as well have been on Mars. She didn't belong here, in this study with its priceless books and view of gardens that probably required a full-time staff. I should go, she said quietly. You have guests. A speech to finish. This has all been fate. Alexander turned from the window. Do you believe in that? That some things are meant to happen exactly as they do? Elena thought of the series of unlikely events that had brought her to this moment. Mrs. Chen's emergency. Sophia ending up at the gala. The compass lying by an orchid arrangement, waiting to be found. I believe God has plans we don't always understand. Tell me about her. Alexander gestured to Sophia. Your daughter. She's fearless. Despite her exhaustion and lingering anxiety, Elena felt the familiar warmth that always came when talking about her child. Sophia Grace Martinez. Born February 14th, yes, Valentine's Day. She came early, barely 5 pounds, and the doctors worried about her lungs. But she fought. Elena's smile was fierce with remembered fear and pride. From her first breath, she fought. Just like her mother, I imagine. Elena met his gaze, surprised by the respect in it. We do what we must. Her father. She paused, old pain flickering. He left before she was born. Said he wasn't ready for the responsibility. So it's just us. We're a team. That must be difficult. Raising a child alone. Some days I'm so tired I could cry. Other days I look at her and think I'm the luckiest person alive. Elena adjusted Sophia's weight, brushing curls from the small, peaceful face. She loves stories. We go to the library every Sunday. It's free, and she makes me read until my voice gives out. Last week she decided she wants to be an astronaut. The week before, a veterinarian. She's full of dreams.
Good.
Alexander's voice was firm. Never let anyone take those from her. Never let her think that where she starts determines where she can go. Is that what happened to you? Elena asked softly. After your father died, I mean. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, my mother remarried within a year. Richard Whitmore, investment banker, old money, everything my father wasn't. He adopted me, gave me his name, sent me to the best schools. Told me I should be grateful to escape the life my father would have given me. But you weren't grateful. I was angry. Alexander's hands clenched. Angry that everyone acted like my father's death was an upgrade. Like trading a carpenter who loved me for a banker who saw me as a project was somehow winning. Richard wanted to create a successor, someone to carry on his legacy. He erased every trace of my real father from our home. The photos, the tools, everything. Including, I eventually realized, that compass. Understanding dawned cold and terrible. He took it. Must have. He's been dead 6 years now, so I can't ask him. But I've had people searching this house for years, hoping he'd hidden it somewhere rather than destroyed it. I'd almost given up hope. Alexander looked at the compass in his hand with something like reverence. Then a 3-year-old angel finds it lying by an orchid, exactly when I needed it most. Why now? Elena asked. What makes tonight different? Alexander laughed, but it held no humor. Because tomorrow I'm supposed to sign papers merging Whitmore Technologies with Rothstein Global. A $20 billion deal that will make me even richer than I already am. Richard's dream, building an empire, consolidating power. Everything he wanted for me. But not what you want. I don't know what I want anymore. He moved to the desk, picked up a photo frame Elena hadn't noticed before. This was taken a month before he died. Me and my dad at a construction site where he was working. Elena moved closer to look. The photo showed a younger Alexander, gap-toothed and grinning, wearing a tool belt that swallowed his small frame. A man with kind eyes and work-worn hands had one arm around the boy's shoulders. The love between them was palpable, radiating from the faded photograph like warmth. "You look happy," she said. I was. He used to take me to job sites on weekends, let me help with measurements. Taught me that honest work has dignity, that building something with your hands is just as important as building something with your mind. Alexander's voice grew thick. Richard said those were foolish ideas, that I'd been born for better things. He sent me to boarding school in Switzerland the year after he married my mother. I was 9 years old. Elena's heart ached for the lost boy in the story. I'm sorry. Don't be. I survived. Excelled even. Top of my class, early admission to MIT. First startup sold for $30 million by the time I was 25. Everything Richard wanted. He set the photo down carefully. But I lost myself somewhere along the way. Forgot why I started building things in the first place. Forgot my father's lessons about what really matters. Sophia shifted in Elena's arms, her small hand fisting in the fabric of her mother's uniform. The gesture was unconscious, instinctive, the way children anchor themselves to their mothers even in sleep. Elena saw Alexander watching them, something raw and hungry in his expression. She trusts you completely, he said quietly. Even in sleep, she knows you're there. That's what mothers do. We're the safe place. My mother stopped being that after Richard. The words came out flat, matter of fact. She chose him. Chose his money, his status, his version of what our life should be. When I complained about boarding school, about missing home, she said I needed to grow up and stop living in the past. Elena thought about her own mother, long dead but still vivid in memory. That must have been lonely. Loneliness became normal. Success became everything. If I could just make enough money, earn enough respect, prove I was worthy of the Whitmore name. He trailed off. But it's never enough. Tonight, I stood in that ballroom surrounded by people who would do anything for my attention, my investment, my approval. And I felt nothing. Complete emptiness. Until Sophia handed you the compass. Until then. Alexander looked at her, and Elena saw tears threatening again. She gave me back a piece of my father, a reminder of who I was supposed to be, who he wanted me to become. A soft knock interrupted them. A young woman in a neat uniform, one of the housekeepers Elena knew vaguely, stood in the doorway. Mr. Whitmore? The rose suite is prepared, and Mrs. Pemberton says the guests are asking for you. Thank you, Margaret. Tell them I'll be there shortly. When the door closed, Alexander turned to Elena.
Please.
Let me offer you and Sophia the guest suite for tonight. It's late, you're exhausted, and your daughter is already asleep. You can leave in the morning if you want, but for tonight, let me give you somewhere comfortable to rest. Every instinct told Elena to refuse, to maintain the proper distance between employer and employee, to not accept favors that would make the power imbalance even more uncomfortable. But her arms ached, her feet throbbed in her practical shoes, and the thought of navigating 2 subway lines to Queens while carrying a sleeping 3-year-old felt overwhelming. Just tonight, she heard herself say. And only if you're sure. I'm sure. He moved to the door, held it open. Margaret will show you the way. Everything you might need should be there, but if not, just call the front desk. There's a phone by the bed. Elena shifted Sophia's weight and moved toward the door, then paused. Alexander, thank you. For not firing me. For understanding about Sophia. She struggled for words. For being kind. His smile was sad. I haven't been kind in a very long time. Maybe I needed the reminder as much as I needed the compass. He held up the brass circle. Tell Sophia thank you when she wakes. Tell her she gave someone something more valuable than all the money in the world. I will. Margaret led them through hallways that grew progressively more luxurious until they stopped at a door with a small brass plaque reading, Rose Suite. Inside was a bedroom larger than Elena's entire apartment. A four-poster bed with silk sheets. A sitting area with a fireplace. French doors opening onto a private balcony. Fresh roses in crystal vases filled the air with delicate perfume. There are pajamas in the dresser, Margaret said softly, and toiletries in the bathroom. If the little one needs anything, milk, cookies, whatever, just call. When they were alone, Elena laid Sophia on the enormous bed. Her daughter barely stirred, exhausted from her adventure. Elena removed the yellow sundress, found soft cotton pajamas in a drawer that held clothes in every conceivable size, and tucked her daughter under sheets that probably cost more than a month's rent. She stood there for a long moment, watching Sophia sleep in opulent surroundings so far removed from their normal life it felt like a dream. Through the windows, she could hear distant music from the gala, the murmur of voices from the garden where guests had wandered to escape the ballroom's heat. Two worlds, Elena thought. His and hers. For one strange night, they'd collided in a way that seemed impossible, that wouldn't last beyond sunrise. But for these hours, her daughter slept like a princess, and a broken billionaire clutched a compass that held pieces of his heart. She thought of Alexander's face when he saw the compass. The raw, unguarded emotion. The way years of careful control had shattered in an instant. Wealth, she realized, didn't protect you from grief. Power didn't fill the hollow places loss carved in your soul. Underneath expensive suits and corporate empires, pain looked the same on everyone. Elena kicked off her shoes and lay down beside Sophia, careful not to disturb her. Through the open balcony doors, she could see stars scattered across the sky like diamonds. She thought about the day's journey, waking in their tiny apartment, kissing Sophia goodbye, taking the long subway ride to this mansion where she cleaned rooms she could never afford to stay in. And now, because of a child's innocent kindness and a lost compass, everything had shifted in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. Thank you, she whispered to the darkness, to God, to whatever force had orchestrated this impossible evening. Thank you for my girl. For keeping her safe, for whatever happens next. In the garden below, Alexander Whitmore stood alone under the stars, a compass in his hand and tears on his face, and for the first time in 25 years, felt something like peace beginning to bloom in the empty places of his heart. Elena woke to sunlight streaming through silk curtains and momentary disorientation, so complete she nearly fell out of bed. The rose-scented air, the weight of expensive linens, the absolute silence. Everything was wrong. Then memory rushed back in a dizzying wave. The gala, Sophia's adventure, the compass, Alexander Whitmore's tears. She sat up quickly, heart pounding, and found Sophia no longer beside her. Panic lasted exactly 2 seconds before she heard her daughter's voice drifting from the adjoining sitting room, bright and chattering. And then Mommy says we can't have cookies for breakfast because they're not nutritious, but sometimes on special days we have pancakes which are basically sweet too, so I don't understand the difference, do you? A low male laugh followed. I'm not sure I do, actually. That seems like solid logic. Elena found them on the balcony. Sophia sat at a small table laden with breakfast, fresh fruit, pastries, orange juice in a crystal pitcher, and yes, a plate of cookies. Alexander Whitmore sat across from her, still in his suit from last night though his tie was gone and his collar open. He looked exhausted but somehow lighter than the man who'd fled the ballroom clutching a compass. Mommy! Sophia spotted her and bounced up. The fancy man brought breakfast. There are cookies. And look, strawberries. The big ones you said we can't buy because they cost too much. Sophia Grace. Elena's voice came out sharper than intended, embarrassment flooding her. You don't say things like that. Why not? You said it last week at the grocery store. Alexander's smile was gentle. It's fine. Really? He stood, gesturing to an empty chair.
Please.
Join us. I hope you don't mind. I heard her wake up and thought you might appreciate a few more minutes of sleep. Elena should refuse, should gather Sophia and leave before this strange interlude stretched into something even more inappropriate. But the smell of fresh coffee was intoxicating, and her daughter looked so happy, sticky with strawberry juice and completely at ease in the presence of a billionaire. Just for a moment, she conceded, sitting down. Then we need to get out of your way. You're not in my way. Alexander poured her coffee, added cream without asking, how did he know, and passed the cup across. Actually, I wanted to thank Sophia properly for what she did. I found the lost thing, Sophia announced proudly. And now it's not lost anymore, which means it's found. And being found is better than being lost because lost things are sad and found things are happy. Exactly right. Alexander's expression was soft in a way Elena suspected most people never saw. Because of you, I got back something very important. Something I thought was gone forever. Like when Mommy lost her wedding ring from Abuela, but then we found it in the toy box. Sophia offered. She cried happy tears. Sophia. Elena's throat tightened at the memory. Her grandmother's simple gold band, the only valuable thing she'd ever owned, lost for 3 terrible days before turning up among plastic dinosaurs. Very much like that, Alexander agreed. Sometimes the things that matter most aren't expensive. They're just irreplaceable. They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes. Sophia demolished strawberries with single-minded focus, while Elena tried not to calculate how much this breakfast cost. More than she spent on groceries in a week, probably. The coffee alone tasted like liquid gold. Can I see the pretty thing again? Sophia asked suddenly. The shiny circle I found? Alexander's hand went to his jacket pocket, a reflexive, protective gesture. Then, slowly, he drew out the compass and held it toward the little girl. Very carefully, okay? It's old and special. Sophia took it with the exaggerated care children use when handling something precious. She turned it over, studying the engravings with the seriousness of a scholar examining ancient texts. It says, to my Alex. That's you. You're Alex. I am. And it says, find your way home. She looked up at him with wide, curious eyes. Are you lost? Is that why you needed the special circle back? The question hit Elena like a physical blow. Out of the mouths of babes, as her grandmother used to say. She watched Alexander's face work through several emotions before landing on something like wonder. I was lost, he said quietly, for a very long time, but I'm finding my way back now. Good. Sophia handed the compass back carefully. Being lost is scary. Once I got lost at the park and I couldn't find Mommy and I thought maybe she went home without me and I would have to live in the park forever and only eat pigeons' food. Breadcrumbs, Elena interjected. And I found you in about 30 seconds. It felt like forever. Sophia's indignation was absolute. But then I saw you and you were crying and I said, Mommy, I'm right here, and you hugged me so tight I almost couldn't breathe, but I didn't mind because home is where you are. Alexander looked at Elena and something passed between them again. That strange recognition, the sense of being truly seen. You're lucky, he said. Both of you, to have each other. I know. Elena pulled Sophia onto her lap, breathing in her daughter's strawberry-scented warmth. Every single day, I know. A discreet knock interrupted them. Margaret appeared in the doorway, her expression apologetic. Mr. Whitmore? Mrs. Pemberton needs to speak with you about this morning's situation. The peaceful moment shattered. Alexander's jaw tightened. Tell her I'll be there shortly. When Margaret left, Elena stood, settling Sophia on her hip despite protests about being a big girl who could walk. We should go. You have business to attend to, and we've imposed long enough. You haven't imposed. Alexander stood too, and suddenly the balcony felt smaller. Elena, I need to ask you something. Last night after you went to bed, I made some decisions. Big ones. Her stomach dropped. Here it came, the awkward brush-off, the generous severance package, the request that she find work elsewhere to avoid uncomfortable memories of a night his professional facade cracked. I'm not signing the merger, he continued. $20 billion, years of negotiations, and I'm walking away. The board is threatening mutiny. My lawyers say I'm insane. Everyone thinks I've lost my mind over a piece of brass and a child's accident. Elena's head spun. I don't understand. What does that have to do with us? Everything. Nothing.
I don't know yet.
He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and excitement warring on his face. But I know that for the first time in years, I'm making a decision my father would be proud of. I'm choosing meaning over money. Connection over conquest. That's wonderful, Alexander. Really. But Sophia and I want to help you. The words tumbled out quickly, as if he feared she'd interrupt. Not charity. I know you too well already to insult you that way. But your daughter should be in a better school, somewhere that challenges her curiosity instead of just warehousing her while you work. You should have opportunities, chances to use your intelligence. Yes, I see it, don't look surprised, for more than cleaning houses. I'm not ashamed of cleaning houses. Elena's voice carried quiet steel. It's honest work. It feeds my daughter and keeps us safe.
I know.
And I'm not saying it's not enough. I'm saying you deserve more. Sophia deserves more. Let me help you build something better. He hesitated. Unless you want to leave. I'd understand. Last night was intense, and I'm essentially your boss, and this whole situation is ethically complicated. Stop. Elena held up a hand. Just stop and breathe. He obeyed, and she saw the vulnerability beneath his urgency. This wasn't a billionaire throwing money at problems. This was a man who'd found something precious and was terrified of losing it again. Not just the compass, but whatever that moment of connection had awakened. I need to think, she said carefully. This is all too much, too fast. Yesterday, I was a maid worried about losing my job. Today I'm having breakfast on a balcony with a man who's turning down $20 billion because my daughter found his father's compass. It's like a fairy tale, and fairy tales aren't real. What if this one could be? The question hung between them, full of impossible promise and terrifying risk. Elena thought about the subway ride home, their studio apartment where the sink leaked and the radiator clanked. She thought about Sophia's pre-K with its outdated books and overworked teachers. She thought about the gap between dreams and reality, the chasm between worlds. But she also thought about Alexander's face when he held the compass. The way he listened to Sophia's rambling stories like they mattered. The recognition in his eyes when he looked at Elena, not seeing a maid or a problem to be solved, but a person, an equal. Can I ask you something? Elena said. What do you really want from us? From this? He was quiet for a long moment. Honestly?
I don't know yet.
But when Sophia handed me that compass, something inside me woke up. Something I thought Richard had killed years ago, the part that remembers how to be human instead of just successful. And when I talked to you last night, when you understood without me having to explain, I haven't felt that in years. Maybe ever. So we're what? Some kind of emotional support system? A reminder of your authentic self.
No.
His denial was fierce. You're real. Both of you are real in a way nothing in my life has been for decades. And maybe I'm selfish for wanting to hold on to that. Maybe I should let you walk away and go back to your regular life. But I keep thinking. He trailed off, seemed to gather courage. My father used to say that Sometimes God sends us exactly what we need exactly when we need it. I stopped believing that after he died. But your daughter found that compass for a reason. I have to believe that. Sophia, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet during this exchange, piped up suddenly. Mommy, can we stay? The fancy man is nice, and this house has a library. Margaret showed me. It's like Belle's from the movie. Beauty and the Beast. Alexander's smile was crooked. Am I the beast in this scenario? The beast wasn't really a beast, Sophia said matter-of-factly. He was just sad and needed someone to see him. That's what Mommy says when we watch it. Elena felt heat flood her cheeks. Sophia, that's enough. No, she's right. Alexander crouched down to Sophia's level. I have been sad. But you helped me, and now I want to help you and your mommy. Would that be okay? Will there be more strawberries? Despite everything, Elena laughed. Sophia Grace, we don't make life decisions based on fruit. Why not? You said we should always eat healthy. Alexander stood, his expression hopeful and uncertain in equal measure. Stay for today, at least. Let me show you what I'm thinking. No pressure, no obligations. Just possibilities. Elena knew she should say no. Should protect Sophia and herself from hoping for things that probably wouldn't last beyond this strange, heightened moment. But she looked at her daughter's eager face, felt the weight of years of struggle, and thought about compass needles that pointed toward home. One day, she heard herself say, "We'll stay for one day. But Alexander, we're not a project. If you're looking for meaning or redemption, you won't find it by trying to fix us. We're not broken." I know. His smile was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way she suspected was rare. But maybe we could all use a little help finding our way. That's not fixing. That's just being human. Sophia cheered and demanded more strawberries. Margaret appeared with fresh juice and a knowing smile. And Elena, despite her better judgment, let herself imagine, just for a moment, that fairy tales sometimes started with a 3-year-old and a lost compass and ended with something none of them had dared to hope for. The day unfolded like a dream Elena kept expecting to wake from. Alexander canceled his morning meetings, causing what Margaret whispered was absolute chaos among his staff, and took them on a tour of the mansion's grounds. Sophia ran ahead through the gardens, discovering koi ponds and rose arbors, and a greenhouse full of orchids that made her gasp with delight. Mr. Jameson has been our groundskeeper for 20 years, Alexander explained as an elderly man waved from his work among the flowers. He knew my father. Actually worked with him on a construction site before Dad died. Elena watched Alexander's face as he spoke with the groundskeeper, saw the way he lit up at stories about Thomas Whitmore. The fancy folks would drive past and mock him for working construction, Mr. Jameson said, his weathered face creasing into a smile. But your dad would just laugh. Said honest work was nothing to be ashamed of. He was a good man, Alex. Would have been proud of what you've built. I'm not sure about that. Alexander's voice was quiet. I've spent 25 years building the wrong things. Never too late to start building the right ones. Mr. Jameson's gaze shifted to Sophia, who was trying to catch a butterfly. That little one has something special about her. Like, like she carries sunshine in her pocket. They found Sophia by the greenhouse, covered in dirt and completely content. Mommy, Mr. Jameson said I can help plant flowers.
Can I?
Please. Before Elena could answer, Alexander crouched beside her daughter. What if we did something even better? What if we built a whole garden just for you? With flowers you choose and vegetables you can watch grow? Sophia's eyes went wide. My own garden? Really, truly. Really, truly. If your mommy says it's okay. 2 pairs of eyes turned to Elena, one aged 3 and hopeful, the other 33 and cautiously optimistic. She felt the weight of the moment, the decision that would ripple forward into days and weeks and maybe months. "We don't live here, Sophia," Elena said gently. "Building a garden means coming back."
Means
She looked at Alexander. "Means staying connected to this place. This life." "Would that be so terrible?" Alexander stood, moved closer. "Elena, I know this is fast. I know it seems crazy. But I meant what I said this morning. I want to help. And not just with money or opportunities, though yes, those too."
I want.
He struggled for words. "I want people in my life who are real, who see me as more than a bank account or a business opportunity." "Is that so wrong?"
No.
Elena's voice was soft. "It's not wrong. It's just complicated. You're my employer. You have power over whether I can feed my daughter, keep our apartment. That imbalance makes everything murky. Then don't work for me anymore." The words tumbled out impulsively. "Be my friend. Sophia's friend. Let me be part of your lives in a way that has nothing to do with work or obligation. People will talk." Elena gestured at the mansion, the grounds, the universe of wealth surrounding them. "They already are, probably. The maid and her daughter getting special treatment from the boss. They'll make assumptions. Let them." Alexander's jaw set in a way Elena was beginning to recognize as stubborn determination. "I've spent years caring what people think, molding myself into what they expected. I'm done with that. You and Sophia, you've shown me there's another way. A better way." Sophia tugged on Elena's sleeve. "Mommy, what does complicated mean?" "It means grown-ups thinking too much instead of just being happy," Mr. Jameson interjected with a wink. "Come on, little miss. Let's go pick out some seeds while your mama and Mr. Alex figure things out." When they were alone, Elena moved to a stone bench overlooking the gardens. Alexander sat beside her, careful to maintain respectful distance. For a long moment, they simply watched Sophia and Mr. Jameson examining seed packets near the greenhouse. "My grandmother used to tell me stories," Elena finally said, "about La Cenicienta Cinderella. She'd say fairy tales exist to teach us that magic is possible, that kindness gets rewarded, that love conquers all."
She paused.
"But she also told me the real story behind the fairy tale. How it was written to give hope to people who had nothing, to make poverty bearable by promising it was temporary. False hope in a way." "You think I'm offering false hope?" "I think you're offering something that terrifies me." Elena turned to face him. "Because I want to believe in it. Want to trust that a 3-year-old finding a compass could somehow change everything. But I've learned that when things seem too good to be true, they usually are." Alexander was quiet, his expression thoughtful. "My father told me something before he died. I was upset because kids at school made fun of my lunch. Homemade sandwich instead of cafeteria pizza, apple instead of chips. I asked him why we couldn't be like other families, have money for the good stuff. He smiled sadly at the memory. He said, "Alex, the good stuff isn't what you buy. It's what you build. It's love and trust and knowing someone has your back when things get hard. That's wealth. Everything else is just decoration." He sounds wise.
He was.
And I forgot that. Let Richard convince me that money and power and success were what mattered. I've been chasing decoration for 25 years. Alexander looked at her, and Elena saw raw honesty in his eyes. "You have what matters. Sophia has it. That connection, that love, that trust. It radiates from you both. And I want to learn how to have that again. Not take it from you, but learn from you." Does that make sense? It did. More than Elena wanted to admit. She thought about the lonely little boy sent away to boarding school, the teenager who turned grief into ambition, the man who built an empire on the foundation of someone else's dreams. He was lost, she realized. Not dramatically, not dangerously. Just quietly lost in a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt hollow within. If we do this, she said slowly, it has to be real. Not you playing savior, not me playing grateful recipient. Equal footing, even though that seems impossible given our circumstances. Okay, how do we do that? Elena considered. First, I keep working. Not for you, somewhere else. I need to support Sophia myself. Not depend on your generosity. That's non-negotiable. Agreed. Though can I at least help you find something that pays better? Uses more of your skills. Maybe. What else? You let me help with Sophia's education. Not as charity, but as... He paused. My father wanted to give me opportunities. He died before he could. Let me pay that forward. Let me be the person who opens doors for a bright, curious little girl who deserves every chance to chase her astronaut dreams. Elena's throat tightened. That's a lot to accept. Then think of it as a loan. Someday, when Sophia is successful and brilliant, she can pay it forward to another kid who needs help. That's how the best things work. We lift each other, pass the kindness along. And us. Elena gestured between them. What are we in this scenario? Boss and former employee? Benefactor and recipient? Friends. Alexander met her eyes. I'd like to be friends. Real friends. The kind who have coffee and complain about difficult days and celebrate small victories. I haven't had that in. He trailed off. I'm not sure I've ever had that, actually. Not since I was 8 years old. Do you believe in fate now? After everything? She thought about it seriously. I believe in grace. In unexpected gifts. In 3-year-olds who find compasses exactly when they need to be found. Whether that's fate or God or just beautiful coincidence. She smiled. Does it matter? The result is the same. We found each other. You found your way home. And you? Have you found anything? Elena looked at him, this man who'd been a stranger 6 months ago and now felt like family. She thought about friendship that had somehow become deeper than friendship, about trust built slowly over shared meals and honest conversations. She thought about how Sophia lit up when he arrived, how his smile reached his eyes now, how something had shifted between them so gradually she couldn't pinpoint when exactly friends had become something more. I've found possibilities, she said carefully. Hope. A future that looks different than I expected, but maybe better. Better how? She met his eyes. Bigger. Not in terms of money or stuff, but in terms of what's possible. What Sophia and I can dream about. Who we can be. She paused. Who we can let ourselves love. The word hung between them, deliberate and terrifying. Alexander's breath caught. Elena. I'm not saying, I don't know what I'm saying exactly. She was fumbling now, vulnerable. Just that these months they've been important. You're important. And I think maybe, eventually, if we're careful and honest and keep putting Sophia first, maybe this could become something. Something more than friendship? Maybe. Someday. If that's what you want to. Alexander's smile was slow, building like sunrise. It's what I've wanted for months. But I was terrified to say it, terrified of ruining what we have. We don't have to rush. We can take our time, figure it out together. Together, he repeated. I like that word. Sophia's voice carried up from the garden. Mommy, Mr. Alex, come see. I found a ladybug. They looked at each other and laughed, the moment both broken and perfect. Elena headed for the door, then paused. Alexander? Thank you. For what? For seeing us. For being exactly who you are. For letting a 3-year-old girl give you back your compass. He crossed the room, took her hand carefully, reverently. Thank you for being real. For teaching me what home means. For letting me be part of your family. Always, Elena said. For as long as you want. That might be forever. Good. They went down to the garden together, where Sophia showed them the ladybug with breathless excitement. The autumn sun painted everything gold, and somewhere in the mansion, the compass sat on Alexander's desk, its needle pointing true. Later that night, after Sophia was asleep and Elena was preparing to head home, Alexander walked her to the car. "Next week," he said, "would you and Sophia like to come to a construction site with me? I'm building a community center in Queens, career training, daycare, resources for working families. I want Sophia to see it. Want her to understand that building things, making things better for people, that's what matters." Elena thought about Thomas Whitmore, the carpenter who taught his son about dignity and honest work. She thought about circles, how life brought you back to beginning places, how lost things got found, how a father's lessons could echo across decades. "We'd love to," she said. "Sophia will want to wear a hard hat. I'll make sure there's one her size." She drove home through the city, Sophia sleeping in her car seat, and marveled at how far they'd come. 6 months ago, she'd been terrified of losing her job. Now she was building a future with a man who'd been lost and found himself through her daughter's simple kindness. That night, tucked into their studio apartment with Sophia breathing softly beside her, Elena whispered thanks into the darkness. For compasses that pointed home. For billionaires who learned to be human. For 3-year-olds with fearless hearts and perfect timing. For the unexpected ways grace arrived, not as grand gestures, but as small moments that somehow changed everything. And in his mansion across the city, Alexander Whitmore held his father's compass and finally felt at peace. He'd found his way home. It just looked different than he'd ever imagined. Better, warmer, more real. It looked like a woman and her daughter who taught him that wealth had nothing to do with money and everything to do with love. The compass needle spun and settled, pointing true north. Pointing home. Pointing toward a future built on honesty, connection, and the miracle of a lost thing found exactly when it needed to be.